They told you that if you only visualize yourself holding the money, living the dream, or standing in the spotlight, you would unlock abundance. And what if I tell you that this common advice hides a silent trap that makes you feel poorer than before? This is how it begins, with the intoxicating feeling of watching yourself in third person, as though you are the main actor in a film produced by your imagination. This is how it continues, with the thrill of seeing a lavish house, a sparkling car, or a fat bank account, but always through the lens of watching it happen instead of being the one inside it. This is how it deepens, with the subtle comfort of detachment, because your mind convinces you that being the observer is enough to make it real. This is how it unfolds with cinematic precision, painting images so vivid that they feel almost like memories, but never quite like lived truth. This is how it turns with a cruel twist, because instead of integrating wealth into your sense of self, you train your brain to believe that wealth belongs to someone over there. This is how it traps you in a loop, where each visualization session lifts you for a moment and then drops you back into emptiness. This is how it betrays you with the hollow aftertaste of longing, as the gap between fantasy and identity yawns wider. This is how it echoes in your chest as you finish your session, realizing that no part of you actually felt like the wealthy one. This is how it burns in your subconscious, reinforcing a story where you are the outsider, watching another version of yourself live the life you want. This is how it spirals, because the more vivid the movie, the more painful the contrast when the lights go out. This is how it sharpens the knife of lack, cutting into your self-concept with every scene you build in the wrong perspective. This is how it hardens into habit, because repetition without correction only deepens the groove of error. This is how it teases you with flashes of joy that vanish like smoke the moment reality presses back in. This is how it shatters your faith, whispering that visualization does not work, when in truth, it is only the angle of your imagination that is broken. This is how it fools you into believing that effort equals result, though misaligned effort can be worse than no effort at all. This is how it poisons the well of hope, leaving you wondering why everyone else swears by imagination while you are left empty-handed. This is how it drains your energy, turning sacred practice into a hollow performance. This is how it suffocates the seed of faith, because the subconscious never accepts what is seen as external. This is how it begins, but the story does not end here, because something deeper waits just beyond the surface of this error. Can you imagine what shifts the moment you stop watching yourself as if you were on a distant stage, and instead slip fully into the skin of the wealthy version of you who already exists? This is how it begins, when you no longer see a stranger with your face holding stacks of money, but feel your own fingers brushing against crisp notes as though they belong to you right now. This is how it continues, when the applause is no longer distant noise in the background, but roars in your ears because you are the one standing there receiving it. This is how it transforms, when the new car is no longer a gleaming shape viewed from the sidewalk, but a vibrating engine purring under your grip as you guide it down the road. This is how it deepens, when the luxurious home is no longer a postcard you peek into, but a lived space whose floorboards creak beneath your own steps. This is how it expands, when your subconscious begins to register not a movie but a memory, because it cannot distinguish between what is vividly experienced and what is actually lived. This is how it empowers you, when the lines blur and imagination becomes indistinguishable from truth inside your nervous system. This is how it roots itself, when every visualization session feels like inhabiting a parallel version of you rather than chasing a ghost image. This is how it liberates you from the gnawing hunger that comes after watching yourself succeed from a distance, because there is no distance anymore. This is how it sweetens the practice, because you rise from your chair, not drained but overflowing with a sense of reality that clings to you like fragrance. This is how it repairs the bridge between desire and fulfillment, because emotion now anchors identity rather than yearning highlighting lack. This is how it pulls you forward into subtle changes, like speaking differently, walking with more certainty, or saying no to what once felt irresistible. This is how it remaps the brain, because neurons fire as though the scene is unfolding in real time, carving new patterns of expectation. This is how it dissolves the old pattern of comparison, because there is no that person anymore. There is only you, here and now, living it. This is how it awakens fresh courage, because once your subconscious accepts wealth as yours, your behavior unconsciously aligns to protect and expand it. This is how it erases doubt, because what is lived inside cannot be debated outside. This is how it solidifies belief, because when imagination stops being cinema and starts being embodiment, faith becomes evidence. This is how it closes the wound of feeling broke after each session, because the session itself leaves you richer in energy and certainty. This is how it builds momentum, because one embodied visualization becomes a seed for another, layering reality upon reality. This is how it continues, yet something deeper waits, because even embodiment has levels that most people never dare to touch. Picture for a moment what happens when you realize that even within first-person visualization there are hidden gradients of depth, some shallow and some profoundly transformative. This is how it begins when you catch yourself merely looking through your eyes without feeling the weight of the moment pressing against your senses. This is how it continues when you notice that your imagined touch, sound, and smell are faint shadows rather than vivid realities. This is how it sharpens when you compare the difference between saying, "I see the room," and saying, "I feel the air, I hear the subtle hum, I smell the polished wood." This is how it expands when you awaken all 5 senses inside imagination, because the subconscious records multisensory experience as undeniable truth. This is how it deepens when visualization stops being a flat picture and becomes a living, breathing environment that surrounds you from every angle. This is how it transforms when the leather seat under your legs feels as textured as the chair you are really sitting in. This is how it heightens when the weight of a glass in your hand feels as undeniable as gravity itself. This is how it electrifies your nervous system, sending signals that blur the line between imagined wealth and embodied wealth. This is how it convinces the subconscious to update your identity file, not as someone who hopes, but as someone who remembers. This is how it roots belief not in words, but in the nervous system, which responds to sensation far more strongly than to verbal repetition. This is how it begins to overwrite lack, because lack has no foothold when the body feels what the mind imagines. This is how it awakens forgotten strength, as you realize the body itself is the tool of manifestation, carrying memory into reality. This is how it shifts your relationship with desire, because the more embodied the vision, the less you feel you are chasing, and the more you feel you are expanding. This is how it intensifies your conviction, because doubt cannot survive the physicality of felt truth. This is how it separates surface practitioners from masters, because embodiment requires patience, creativity, and fearless surrender to the imagined now. This is how it redefines practice, transforming sessions from mental movies into full rehearsals of destiny. This is how it elevates visualization from performance to possession, because once it is felt, it is owned. This is how it sets the stage for even greater discoveries, because embodiment is only one dimension of the unseen architecture of manifestation. This is how it carries you forward, as the layers peel back and you begin to see that identity itself is the true arena of wealth. Now consider this. Every visualization you practice is not only a picture or a sensation, but also a declaration of who you believe yourself to be in that moment. This is how it begins when you realize that the subconscious does not store scattered images as truths, but rather organizes them under the label of identity. This is how it continues when you understand that every imagined detail whispers, "This is me," or "This is not me," depending on how deeply you embody it. This is how it grows when you see that wealth is never about money first, but always about the self-concept that determines how money can flow. This is how it strengthens when you claim wealth not as a dream, but as a memory of self. Something so natural it feels impossible to argue with. This is how it becomes dangerous when visualization is done incorrectly, because the wrong identity anchor tells your subconscious that wealth belongs to someone you only watch. This is how it collapses progress when you unknowingly reinforce the identity of the outsider looking in, instead of the one already living inside. This is how it reveals the hidden sabotage, where every session that feels cinematic but detached becomes proof to the subconscious that you are not yet the wealthy one. This is how it awakens a new urgency, because until identity shifts, results remain temporary and fleeting. This is how it takes shape when you declare, I am the one who receives, I am the one who owns, I am the one who lives this reality. This is how it ripples outward, because once identity shifts, behavior follows, and behavior attracts opportunities in alignment with who you now are. This is how it clarifies why some people effortlessly manifest while others struggle, even though both claim to visualize faithfully. This is how it shines light on the truth that repetition alone is not power. Identity-aligned repetition is power. This is how it builds resilience, because when identity anchors wealth, setbacks no longer feel like proof of lack, but simply temporary contrasts. This is how it reshapes your language, because you no longer say one day I will, but instead, this is who I am. This is how it realigns your emotions, because guilt, doubt, and envy dissolve when they cannot coexist with an identity that already possesses. This is how it burns away hesitation, because a self who is already wealthy acts decisively and fearlessly. This is how it fortifies your inner world, because the subconscious treats every anchored identity as an unshakable baseline. This is how it empowers you to stand taller, walk differently, and speak with a certainty that others feel but cannot explain. This is how it transitions you forward. Yet something even more profound waits, because identity is not only shaped by vision, but also by the emotions that seal it into permanence. Suppose you discover that the true glue binding visualization to reality is not the image itself, but the emotional current that runs through it. This is how it begins when you realize that without emotion, even the most vivid picture is only a flat sketch on the canvas of your mind. This is how it continues when you see that the subconscious does not respond to words or shapes as much as it responds to felt energy. This is how it pulses when joy surges through your veins during visualization, convincing your nervous system that what you imagine is already lived truth. This is how it deepens when gratitude pours over you like warm light, anchoring the sense of possession more powerfully than any verbal affirmation could. This is how it grows when relief replaces struggle, because the subconscious says, this is already mine. This is how it stabilizes when excitement turns into calm certainty, as though wealth is not a gift on the way, but a natural extension of who you are. This is how it echoes beyond the session, because emotion lingers in your body long after the visualization ends. This is how it burns into memory, because the brain always tags emotional experiences as significant and prioritizes them for recall. This is how it magnetizes opportunity, because your energy shifts into congruence with the reality you claim. This is how it shapes your outer world, because the way you talk, move, and respond flows from the emotional state you now inhabit. This is how it dismantles resistance, because fear and doubt cannot thrive in the presence of embodied joy. This is how it blurs the boundary between imagination and reality, because emotion makes both feel equally true. This is how it corrects the hollow ache that follows detached visualization, replacing it with fullness that stays with you. This is how it transforms practice into ritual, because each session becomes an immersion into wealth, not a performance of desire. This is how it awakens a hunger for consistency, because you crave the emotional nourishment as much as you crave the external results. This is how it reveals the hidden law, that emotion is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. This is how it elevates your awareness, because you stop asking, did it work? And start knowing it is already so. This is how it seals identity, because once wealth feels normal in the emotional body, the external must follow. This is how it carries you forward, but that was only the beginning, because beyond emotion lies the mysterious power of perspective itself, where even subtle shifts change everything. Think about how even the slightest adjustment in perspective can turn a powerless visualization into a reality-shaping experience. This is how it begins when you realize that your subconscious is always asking a single question: am I watching this, or am I living this? This is how it continues when you see that every session either casts you as the observer or the participant, and only one of those roles has power. This is how it sharpens when you understand that the observer effect, spoken of in both physics and psychology, shows that what you separate yourself from remains separate. This is how it deepens when you catch yourself hovering above a scene, watching your face smile, without ever feeling the smile crease your own skin. This is how it expands when you shift into the seat of self, letting the experience unfold through your eyes, your body, your breath. This is how it redefines truth for your subconscious, because what is observed is noted, but what is lived is believed. This is how it awakens clarity, because suddenly you see why countless visualizations left you cold. They were movies, not memories. This is how it grows when you refuse to hover above your own life like a ghost, and instead stand inside it as the one alive. This is how it electrifies your imagination, because ownership flows only when you choose the participant's seat. This is how it exposes the danger of detachment, where wealth remains forever on the horizon because you placed yourself outside the frame. This is how it explains the emptiness people feel after practice, as if they just scrolled through someone else's highlight reel. This is how it roots power in embodiment, because no reality can exclude the one who already lives it in imagination. This is how it blurs the line between fantasy and memory, because once you live it inwardly, the subconscious cannot untangle what is real and what is imagined. This is how it turns practice into possession, because perspective alone dictates ownership. This is how it dissolves comparison, because there is no other when you are inside the moment. This is how it shifts your energy from longing to claiming, because you are not looking at the dream, you are inside it, breathing it. This is how it closes the door to lack, because lack can only exist in separation, never in embodiment. This is how it secures faith, because once you see through your own eyes, belief becomes inevitable. This is how it leads you forward, yet something deeper emerges, because perspective is only the surface layer of a far more powerful principle, the rewriting of memory itself. Suppose you discover that the mind cannot resist the pull of memory, and the greatest secret of visualization is not creating a future, but rewriting a past. This is how it begins when you realize that the subconscious is wired to replay memories as reality anchors, shaping how you feel about what is possible today. This is how it continues when you understand that if wealth exists only in your future, the subconscious keeps pushing it forward like a mirage you can never reach. This is how it deepens when you insert imagined experiences into your memory bank, treating them as recollections rather than distant wishes. This is how it transforms when you stop saying, "I will have wealth," and instead say, "I remember when I first held that contract. I remember when I first touched those keys. I remember when I first saw the balance rise." This is how it strengthens belief, because the subconscious does not argue with memory, it records and accepts. This is how it builds momentum, because each rewritten memory weakens the grip of lack and strengthens the baseline of abundance. This is how it heals the wound of always chasing, because you stop running toward the future and begin walking inside a past that already confirms wealth. This is how it shifts the emotional tone, because memories carry nostalgia and certainty, not hunger or longing. This is how it makes wealth feel inevitable, because once you remember it, your mind assumes it has already happened. This is how it roots abundance into identity, because your story of self now includes the chapter of success you claim. This is how it dismantles fear, because fear thrives on uncertainty, and memory erases uncertainty by declaring, "This has already been." This is how it raises your vibration, because the nostalgia of wealth feels warm and familiar, not cold and distant. This is how it expands creative power, because the more memories you rewrite, the more doors open for reality to rearrange itself in harmony. This is how it removes resistance, because the subconscious no longer fights the vision, it carries it as lived truth. This is how it empowers the present, because, with rewritten memory, you walk into today with the posture of one who has already crossed the finish line. This is how it saturates your being with confidence, because nothing feels more natural than what has already happened. This is how it bridges imagination and reality, because memory is the language the subconscious trusts above all. This is how it propels you into a new dimension of practice, because once you command memory, you command destiny. This is how it leads you forward, And yet something even deeper is waiting. Because memory itself becomes unstoppable when fused with emotion and identity. Can you imagine how much more powerful rewritten memory becomes when you lace it with sensory details so rich that your subconscious cannot deny it? This is how it begins, when you not only recall the imagined scene, but also feel the weight of the pen as you sign the deal, the slick texture of the paper beneath your hand. This is how it continues, when you taste the celebratory drink on your tongue, sharp and sweet, carrying the vibration of victory into your nervous system. This is how it deepens when you hear the echoes of applause, the murmur of congratulations, or the quiet sound of your own footsteps entering the home you claimed. This is how it grows when you feel the smooth leather of a steering wheel under your palms as if you were truly there. This is how it expands when smell enters the memory, the scent of new furniture, fresh paint, or the crisp air blowing in through an open window of your new car. This is how it convinces the subconscious that you are not remembering fantasy, but recalling lived reality. This is how it turns a simple mental trick into embodied truth, because the body never questions what it feels. This is how it intensifies the rewriting process, because multisensory recall places the imagined past above logical resistance. This is how it fuels certainty, because you are not just thinking about wealth, but literally remembering how it felt in your body. This is how it stabilizes belief, because memory wrapped in sensation roots itself deeper than words ever could. This is how it transforms visualization into time travel, where your subconscious insists, "I have already been there." This is how it strengthens the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming, erasing the distance with sensory richness. This is how it saturates your being, because no corner of your mind is left untouched when all senses participate. This is how it silences doubt, because doubt cannot coexist with a body that remembers victory. This is how it creates permanence, because sensation locks the rewritten memory into the nervous system as unshakable truth. This is how it elevates your practice, turning each session into a rehearsal that feels indistinguishable from lived life. This is how it opens new layers of possibility, because once the subconscious accepts sensory memories, it begins rearranging your outer reality to match. This is how it replaces effort with inevitability, because what you have already remembered must unfold again. This is how it sets the stage for even greater revelations, because embodiment through senses is only the entry point to the higher law of assumption. When you visualize in the first person without grounding yourself, you may unknowingly reinforce the identity of someone who is still waiting for change, rather than someone already transformed. The mirror of your identity reflects back the truth of who you believe you are, not just what you imagine in a fleeting moment. If, after visualization, you look around and still think, "I am broke," then your subconscious is confirming that reality as your dominant self-image. The visualization becomes a movie you watch inside your head instead of a lived reality you step into. The error isn't in the act of visualization, but in failing to update the identity that sustains it. A millionaire self-image holds wealth naturally, even when circumstances suggest lack. But a struggling self-image can sabotage even the clearest mental picture of abundance. This is why so many feel disheartened. The mirror of identity does not match the scene they played out in imagination. You cannot hold the inner movie as a separate life. You must claim it as your own. The error arises when you visualize as though wealth is something outside of you rather than something radiating from who you are. The first-person perspective alone does not rewrite identity. It simply places you inside a story you may not fully accept. This is why Neville Goddard emphasized feeling it real, not just seeing through your eyes, but becoming the person within the scene. When identity and visualization collide, the mirror shifts, and reality reflects the wealth you already claim. Without that shift, the mirror only reflects the same familiar struggles. The first person makes it vivid, but only identity makes it real. And until the mirror changes, your outer life cannot. Think about how your emotions act as the amplifier of every visualization, because the subconscious responds far more to feeling than to thought. This is how it begins, when you notice that a joyful heartbeat can convince your mind that wealth is already yours more than 100 mental images ever could. This is how it continues when subtle excitement courses through your veins, coloring every imagined detail with the vibration of reality. This is how it deepens when relief replaces anxiety, because your nervous system registers ownership rather than longing. This is how it strengthens when gratitude swells inside you, wrapping imagined abundance in a cloak of certainty. This is how it expands when you sense the laughter of your loved ones in your imagined home, the echo of happiness confirming that the world aligns with your inner state. This is how it pulls you further when you feel the texture of currency in your hands, the rustle of paper whispering, "This belongs to you." This is how it sharpens the bridge between imagination and identity, because only felt truth rewrites the subconscious. This is how it saturates your being with certainty, dissolving the lingering doubt that first-person errors often leave behind. This is how it turns visualization from a passive observation into active possession, because emotion carries the weight of reality into the nervous system. This is how it teaches your body that wealth is not a distant dream, but a lived condition, shaping posture, voice, and movement. This is how it awakens subtle changes in behavior, because feeling wealthy internally triggers congruent actions externally. This is how it erases resistance, because fear and scarcity cannot coexist with the intensity of lived emotion. This is how it reinforces identity, embedding the millionaire self into the neural circuitry as undeniable truth. This is how it magnifies results, because once emotions are aligned, the universe has no choice but to respond. This is how it transforms ordinary visualization into a rehearsal of destiny, making every session a lived experience. This is how it solidifies faith, because the body remembers what the mind imagines. This is how it deepens awareness, because you begin to notice how minor shifts in feeling change everything about perception. This is how it sets the stage for mastery, because emotional embodiment becomes the cornerstone of permanent change. This is how it propels you forward, yet the next layer waits, where action and imagination converge to crystallize reality beyond mere thought. Picture for a moment how visualization alone, even when deeply felt, cannot complete the bridge to reality without action to anchor it. This is how it begins when you see that the body must follow the mind, translating imagined states into tangible steps that honor the identity you are building. This is how it continues when small, deliberate actions ripple outward, reinforcing the subconscious belief that your imagined wealth is not only real, but natural. This is how it deepens when every decision, from how you spend your time to what opportunities you pursue, becomes aligned with the life you already inhabit internally. This is how it grows when you notice subtle synchronicities emerging, doors opening in ways that confirm your internal rehearsal of success. This is how it sharpens when hesitation fades, because action taken from identity feels effortless and inevitable. This is how it electrifies the mind, body, and spirit, connecting the imaginative rehearsal to real-world manifestation. This is how it strengthens, because each act performed in alignment validates the nervous system's memory of already having achieved it. This is how it expands perception, because you begin to recognize patterns and opportunities that were invisible before the internal rehearsal. This is how it amplifies momentum, because imagination creates expectation, and expectation primes action without strain. This is how it transforms practice into life, because every decision becomes a micro-expression of your lived wealth. This is how it dissolves fear, because action taken from certainty bypasses doubt entirely. This is how it solidifies belief, because repeated alignment between internal vision and external behavior ingrains the identity of abundance. This is how it awakens subtle authority, as others respond to the congruence and energy you now radiate naturally. This is how it roots persistence, because each step taken reinforces not only possibility, but inevitability. This is how it teaches the invisible law, that imagination without embodiment and action is incomplete, but together they are unstoppable. This is how it energizes intention, because the body carrying the mind's vision amplifies manifestation speed. This is how it harmonizes energy, thought, and emotion, forming a trinity that propels outcomes beyond mere planning. This is how it accelerates growth, because once imagination and action synchronize, reality begins to mirror the inner state almost instantly. This is how it points forward, Yet something deeper is ready to emerge, where subtle mental habits determine whether this alignment becomes permanent or fleeting. This is how it illuminates the hidden battlefield, where unseen beliefs hold far more power than visible circumstances. This is how it deepens patience, because some patterns take time to notice and even longer to rewire. This is how it cultivates self-trust, because consistent correction builds confidence in your own inner guidance. This is how it merges imagination, emotion, and action into a living system that sustains itself. This is how it points forward, yet the next layer awaits, where the rhythm of repetition itself becomes the secret architect of lasting transformation. Picture for a moment how repetition is not mere habit, but the heartbeat that synchronizes your imagination, identity, and emotion into one unshakable rhythm. This is how it begins when each visualization session becomes a ritual, a sacred rehearsal of your already living self. This is how it continues when repeated practice engraves neural pathways, making the feeling of wealth as automatic as breathing. This is how it deepens when the body begins to anticipate abundance before the mind even speaks it aloud. This is how it grows when each ritual reinforces identity, because the subconscious interprets repeated experience as undeniable proof. This is how it sharpens when small daily acts, from posture to tone of voice, echo the inner reality, weaving imagination into every micro-movement. This is how it transforms when repetition carries emotion, binding sensation to memory until the nervous system cannot distinguish between imagined and lived reality. This is how it amplifies influence, because every repeated internal act creates an external resonance that others unconsciously respond to. This is how it strengthens certainty, because the body begins to expect prosperity as naturally as sunlight and gravity. This is how it energizes momentum, because repeated alignment attracts opportunities that match your internal rehearsals. This is how it deepens awareness, because through repetition, you notice subtle misalignments and correct them immediately. This is how it stabilizes faith, because consistency erases doubt faster than any intellectual argument ever could. This is how it magnifies results, because your life begins to echo the rehearsed rituals almost effortlessly. This is how it awakens subconscious mastery, because the nervous system learns that abundance is habitual, not conditional. This is how it reinforces identity, because repeated sensory experience locks in the millionaire self as undeniable truth. This is how it dissolves fear, because the ritual itself carries a sense of inevitability that overrides hesitation. This is how it harmonizes imagination, emotion, and action into one continuous stream of manifestation. This is how it illuminates the unseen scaffolding of reality, because what is rehearsed internally constructs external outcomes. This is how it points forward, yet even deeper layers wait, where subtle alignment of energy, intention, and focus can exponentially accelerate the materialization of your desires. This is how it sets the stage for mastery that feels effortless, as though reality itself bends to the rhythm of your repeated, embodied rehearsal. Now consider this. Energy is the unseen current that carries every thought, emotion, and action into tangible manifestation, and focus is the rudder that directs it with precision. This is how it begins when you realize that scattered attention diffuses power, leaving even the most vivid visualization weak and ineffective. This is how it continues when concentration intensifies, because your nervous system begins to treat imagined outcomes as current reality, rather than distant possibility. This is how it sharpens when you notice that the quality of energy behind a visualization, the intensity, clarity, and emotion, determines how rapidly it moves into experience. This is how it deepens when focus sessions feel effortless, because alignment of mind, heart, and intention harmonizes your entire being. This is how it grows when you learn to detect subtle leaks of energy, distraction, doubt, or resentment that dilute your manifestation. This is how it transforms when disciplined attention allows you to merge sensation, identity, and expectation into a single coherent signal. This is how it electrifies action, because every step taken from aligned energy flows naturally toward desired outcomes. This is how it strengthens faith, because the mind witnesses repeated confirmation that energy directed with focus produces tangible results. This is how it awakens awareness, because you start noticing the ripple effects of your internal state on people, opportunities, and circumstances. This is how it expands mastery, because energy is amplified exponentially by intention, reinforced with emotional embodiment. This is how it solidifies belief, because consistent alignment of energy leaves no room for contradiction in the subconscious. This is how it enhances creativity, because focused energy allows solutions, ideas, and synchronicities to surface effortlessly. This is how it dissolves hesitation, because uncertainty cannot survive in the presence of clear, sustained energy. This is how it reinforces identity, because a person who consistently aligns energy feels naturally abundant and confident. This is how it magnifies results, because momentum builds as every action, thought, and feeling vibrates in harmony with purpose. This is how it stabilizes the internal landscape, because coherence generates calm, resilience, and clarity. This is how it illuminates deeper truths, because energy alignment reveals what is truly essential and what is illusion. This is how it accelerates manifestation, because aligned energy collapses time between imagination and experience. This is how it points forward, yet even higher layers await, where focus, energy, and the unseen laws converge to create effortless, unstoppable reality. Think about how your deepest beliefs act as the soil from which all manifestation either flourishes or withers, because the subconscious accepts only what it assumes to be true. This is how it begins when you notice that even vivid visualization and aligned energy cannot bypass the framework of your core assumptions. This is how it continues when you realize that if your subconscious assumes scarcity, every session reinforces lack rather than abundance. This is how it sharpens when you understand that assumptions operate invisibly, silently dictating your interpretation of every circumstance. This is how it deepens when you observe the automatic judgments you make about success, money, and opportunity, and how they reflect long-held mental programs. This is how it grows when you learn to consciously revise these assumptions through first-person, emotionally charged visualization. This is how it transforms when you imagine not only living wealth, but believing wealth is your natural state, embedding it into identity. This is how it electrifies manifestation, because belief aligned with feeling and action collapses the gap between imagination and reality. This is how it strengthens certainty, because the subconscious cannot distinguish between assumed truth and actual experience. This is how it awakens clarity, because awareness of limiting beliefs allows you to consciously overwrite them. This is how it expands mastery, because shaping assumptions is like tending the roots of a tree whose branches are your external life. This is how it stabilizes energy, because the mind, body, and emotion now move coherently toward assumed reality. This is how it magnifies results, because every opportunity, decision, and synchronicity is filtered through the lens of unshakable belief. This is how it dissolves hesitation, because when the subconscious assumes abundance, fear is rendered meaningless. This is how it reinforces identity, because assumptions shape perception, behavior, and ultimately the reality that confirms them. This is how it builds resilience, because assumed wealth cannot be undone by external events, it is anchored internally. This is how it illuminates unseen dynamics, because belief acts as the invisible architecture of your manifested world. This is how it accelerates transformation, because once assumptions are aligned, reality bends effortlessly in response. This is how it prepares you for mastery, yet even more subtle forces remain, where imagination, emotion, identity, and assumption converge to produce effortless, unbroken results. This is how it carries you forward, moving deeper into the laws that govern creation from within, beyond mere thought or technique. Can you imagine that even after mastering visualization, energy alignment, and belief, subtle resistance can still appear like shadows in the corners of your mind? This is how it begins when doubt surfaces unexpectedly, whispering, "What if it doesn't work?" and testing the strength of your inner alignment. This is how it continues when small fears, insecurities, or past disappointments attempt to pull attention away from the reality you have already embodied. This is how it sharpens when you notice that resistance is not an external enemy, but a reflection of unhealed assumptions within yourself. This is how it deepens when you realize that trying to fight resistance only strengthens it, whereas observing and redirecting it dissolves its power. This is how it grows when you meet doubt with awareness rather than judgment, treating it as a guide rather than a threat. This is how it transforms when you consciously reinforce the first-person experience of your already living self, letting certainty drown out hesitation. This is how it strengthens resilience, because repeated exposure to subtle resistance trains the subconscious to stay anchored despite appearances. This is how it awakens subtle mastery, because mastery is measured not by the absence of doubt, but by the ability to act through it. This is how it expands when each neutralized hesitation becomes a proof point for your subconscious that abundance is unshakable. This is how it energizes persistence, because you now respond to resistance with calm action rather than panic or withdrawal. This is how it magnifies confidence, because the more you meet doubt without succumbing, the more the nervous system internalizes certainty. This is how it stabilizes your practice, because each encounter with resistance becomes a rehearsal for unbroken alignment. This is how it dissolves fear, because fear only has power when you allow it to interrupt identity and focus. This is how it illuminates hidden obstacles, showing that even advanced practitioners must continually refine subtle inner habits. This is how it prepares you for effortless flow, because once resistance no longer disrupts energy, imagination, or action, manifestation accelerates naturally. This is how it points forward, because neutralized doubt clears the way for even higher levels of alignment. This is how it synchronizes mind, body, and emotion, producing a state where creativity, focus, and manifestation converge. This is how it solidifies internal authority, because nothing external can undermine the identity you have claimed. This is how it carries you forward, ready to enter the next layer where effortless assumption meets daily life in seamless integration. Picture for a moment how your visualization, emotion, identity, and aligned action converge seamlessly into everyday life, transforming ordinary moments into extensions of your inner reality. This is how it begins when you notice that small daily choices, what you say, how you move, even how you carry your gaze, reflect the wealth you already embody internally. This is how it continues when habits become unconscious expressions of abundance, because repeated alignment ingrains your identity into every micro-action. This is how it deepens when you move through crowds, conversations, and tasks without needing to visualize externally, because the internal state now guides behavior naturally. This is how it grows when challenges arise, because your embodied wealth identity allows you to navigate obstacles with calm, confident mastery. This is how it sharpens when your decisions, finances, and relationships begin to mirror the reality rehearsed in imagination. This is how it transforms when each day becomes a live canvas, and every moment offers an opportunity to act from your already living self. This is how it electrifies momentum, because the alignment between internal experience and external action multiplies outcomes effortlessly. This is how it strengthens, because repeated integration reinforces neural patterns, turning deliberate practice into automatic expression. This is how it expands perception, allowing you to see opportunity, synchronicity, and abundance that were invisible before internal alignment. This is how it stabilizes belief, because lived reality now confirms imagination at every turn. This is how it magnifies results, as subtle daily choices accumulate into monumental shifts over time. This is how it awakens confidence, because each aligned act reinforces the subconscious memory of success. This is how it harmonizes energy, thought, and action into a coherent flow that no external circumstance can disrupt. This is how it dissolves fear, because living as the embodiment of wealth eliminates doubt before it arises. This is how it deepens mastery, as life itself becomes the ongoing rehearsal for the identity you have assumed. This is how it prepares you for effortless manifestation, because the separation between imagination and reality disappears. This is how it reinforces authority, because people and circumstances now respond naturally to the energy you radiate. This is how it illuminates the path forward, because each day becomes proof of the law operating invisibly in your favor. This is how it carries you forward, yet even higher layers remain, where subtle alignment of focus, memory, and expectation unlock exponential manifestation. Now consider this. When imagination, emotion, identity, energy, and assumption all converge, manifestation begins to accelerate at a speed that feels almost unnatural. This is how it begins when opportunities, coincidences, and synchronicities appear not as random events, but as inevitable consequences of your inner state. This is how it continues when timing seems to bend around your intentions, delivering outcomes before you even consciously expect them. This is how it sharpens when the universe responds not to effort, but to the vibrational coherence of your fully aligned self. This is how it deepens when each new success reinforces your internal map, creating a feedback loop that amplifies certainty and momentum. This is how it grows when small victories cascade into larger ones, because every manifestation strengthens the subconscious assumption that abundance is normal. This is how it transforms when resistance, hesitation, and doubt dissolve completely in the face of undeniable proof. This is how it electrifies action, because the body moves with effortless authority toward outcomes already lived internally. This is how it strengthens belief, because exponential results leave no room for question. This is how it awakens awareness, because you begin to see the invisible connections between thought, emotion, and circumstance with astonishing clarity. This is how it expands possibility, because nothing seems too distant or unattainable when the law is fully integrated. This is how it stabilizes energy, because each manifestation confirms that focus and alignment are the true architects of reality. This is how it magnifies confidence, because living proof creates unshakable faith in the process. This is how it dissolves fear, because exponential acceleration makes scarcity and delay appear impossible. This is how it illuminates mastery, because the process becomes effortless when the inner and outer worlds resonate in perfect harmony. This is how it energizes persistence, because success now feels like a natural byproduct of living as your highest self. This is how it synchronizes imagination, memory, and expectation into a seamless chain of creation. This is how it accelerates transformation, because each manifestation compounds the next, producing results faster than the mind can calculate. This is how it sets the stage for ultimate realization, because exponential flow reveals that creation is instantaneous when internal alignment is complete. This is how it carries you forward, ready for the final layers where permanence and unbroken flow of manifestation become your everyday reality. Picture for a moment how permanence in manifestation is achieved, not through force or effort, but through the unbroken alignment of imagination, identity, emotion, and action. This is how it begins when every visualization, every feeling, and every aligned step is no longer occasional but habitual, forming a seamless rhythm of creation. This is how it continues when your nervous system assumes wealth as a constant, dissolving the old cycles of lack and limitation. This is how it deepens when each day reinforces the reality you claim, until your outer life mirrors the internal state with unerring accuracy. This is how it grows when challenges arise, yet no longer shake your alignment, because permanence is not fragile, it is integrated at every level of being. This is how it strengthens when even subconscious doubts are replaced by default certainty, leaving no space for hesitation. This is how it transforms when the first-person perspective ceases to be a tool and becomes your lived, unchangeable reality. This is how it energizes action, because behavior now flows naturally from the identity and not from deliberate effort. This is how it magnifies results, because permanent alignment produces continuous manifestation without interruption. This is how it awakens awareness, because you notice the subtle harmony between intention, expectation, and outcome in every moment. This is how it stabilizes energy, because unbroken flow eliminates inner turbulence and resistance. This is how it dissolves fear, because permanence creates an unshakable foundation that no circumstance can disrupt. This is how it illuminates mastery, because living perpetually in first-person alignment becomes effortless and automatic. This is how it expands possibility, because with permanence, what once seemed extraordinary now feels ordinary. This is how it synchronizes memory, emotion, and imagination into a continuous feedback loop of certainty. This is how it accelerates growth, because the compounding effect of unbroken alignment multiplies results exponentially. This is how it reinforces identity, because living permanently in first-person experience ingrains the wealthy self into every thought, action, and sensation. This is how it sharpens focus, because no energy is wasted resisting scarcity or imagining lack. This is how it carries you forward, yet the final revelation awaits, where effortless integration into life itself reveals the ultimate freedom and flow of manifestation. Think about how the final revelation of first-person visualization is not an event but a state of being where imagination, identity, emotion, energy, and action fuse into effortless flow. This is how it begins when you awaken to the truth that you are no longer practicing or rehearsing, but living the reality you once imagined. This is how it continues when every step, every thought, and every feeling aligns automatically with the abundance already claimed internally. This is how it deepens when challenges appear as opportunities to reaffirm the unbroken flow rather than tests of your power. This is how it grows when every interaction, decision, and circumstance bends naturally to the coherence of your inner state. This is how it sharpens when the nervous system registers certainty at a cellular level, making doubt impossible to sustain. This is how it transforms when life itself becomes a mirror, reflecting the identity and assumptions you have mastered. This is how it energizes manifestation, because the universe responds instantaneously to the full integration of all layers within you. This is how it magnifies results, because alignment is permanent and the law operates without pause or interruption. This is how it awakens awareness, because every moment reveals subtle confirmations that reality flows according to your inner state. This is how it stabilizes energy, because you no longer expend force. Creation now moves through you with effortless rhythm. This is how it dissolves fear, because abundance is no longer a goal but a baseline of existence. This is how it illuminates mastery, because living permanently in first-person alignment produces a life that feels miraculous and inevitable. This is how it expands possibility, because nothing external can contradict the inner reality fully embraced. This is how it synchronizes memory, emotion, imagination, and action into one continuous self-sustaining system. This is how it accelerates manifestation, because time itself seems to yield to the coherence of your being. This is how it reinforces identity, because the wealthy self is no longer a concept, but the default state of consciousness. This is how it sharpens perception, because subtle signals, opportunities, and synchronicities are immediately recognized and acted upon. This is how it carries you forward, not as someone chasing reality, but as someone already inhabiting it completely. This is how it concludes, yet also begins again, because first-person visualization, once mastered, is not a practice but a perpetual, living, unstoppable state of creation.